I wasn't sure if I should read poems or if I should read this something about the Sid Corman man. Recently was able to publish a kind of a critical memoir about Sid, and the book has some critical pieces, some scholarly essays, but also some memoristic essays. I just don't know, I'm confused, as often is the case, which way to go, but prose or poetry, you know? You guys look...
Why don't you do one of them?
Well, we've heard about real estate. Do you have any unreal estate?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. It's, I don't know how many people are familiar with Sid Corman. Any people?
Very, very.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what I'll do is I'll just, what I'll do is give a shout, tell you a little bit about Sid, and I'm going to read one poem of Sid's, and then I'll read a few of mine, and I read just about 5 poems, so it shouldn't be too long. I often tell myself a little poetry goes a long way, and having been in the audience many times in the past, I know that well. So I'll just read a little bit here. We're all restricted to about 20 minutes. But let me say a little about Sid. And I'm going to use, actually, if I could use some of Ken's words here for the introduction to this little piece that's going to be in Kyoto Journal. The American poet, editor, and progressive literary publisher Sid Corman came to Kyoto in 1958, and he made this city his home while remaining closely engaged with the contemporary literary scene in the United States. Among his associates were such figures as Charles Olson, Robert Creeley, Denise Levertov, Larry Eidner, William Bronk, Theodore Enslin, Laureen Nidecker, and Gary Snyder. In fact, Sid published Snyder's first book called Rip Rap from Kyoto, and Sid did a lot of the editing on that book as well. Gary was pretty young at the time, and he and Sid had some pretty spirited discussions about what that book should look like. I would have wished I could have been a fly on the wall for some of that. But some of his connections too they're all across the world out of Kyoto, all the way to Europe and beyond. Many countries he's translated from many different languages out of Kyoto here, and has had a large effect on American poetry. In fact, some people call him one of the most significant architects of modern American poetry. So it really is a story that that's not been told completely. He had a magazine called Origin from 1951 to 1984, and he and his wife Shizumi ran Cece's, a wonderful cake and ice cream shop, and an occasional poetry reading venture on Venue. My eyes are really bad here. On Marutamachi Street, which even now remains in business. So Sid passed away in Kyoto 10 years ago, in 2004. So what I knew Sid for about 15, 16 years, and I knew him in Kyoto. I used to visit with him, and then when I was in America going back to graduate school and writing, we were in touch with letters. And when I came back to Shiga, and he was always very open and generous and willing to talk with anybody who was interested in poetry. And so this sort of memoir about Sid deals with those years in Kyoto. And I'm going to read, let me just read one poem from Sid, and then I'll let it go. He has a poem for his wife, Shizumi, and it's short, as many of Sid's poems are. This is the poem. We can sense beyond any difference that we who have found love will also find words for each other. So his poetry is really well crafted, small. You'll miss it if you blink, but if you look closely at it, you'll find out that everything is working, and it's hard to really fault it.
Could you read it again?
So glad you asked, yes. You know how haiku usually you do read twice, and these are almost like haiku, so I should do again. So it's to his wife, Shizumi, who is Japanese, of course. We can sense beyond any difference that we who have found love will also find words for each other.
Can I say something about Sid and Chizumi? That Sid didn't speak Japanese, but he read it. He would sit at the shop and read the newspaper in Japanese.
Right.
And he was working on the Manyoshu, I think was the last thing he was working to translate with. So your poem goes through the fact that they didn't communicate in Japanese, even though he lived here. And so the love between them went beyond words
Yeah.
all the time, because they didn't communicate in Japanese per
Right.
se.
Right. That's a good point. As he says, we can sense beyond, you know, yeah. So beyond just the language itself, yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay. Well, Sid has had a big effect, I guess, an effect on me personally, and I think I was with Linda yesterday at CC's, and she asked me what kind of poetry I write, and I always find it hard to say because I really don't exactly know, and maybe I don't really want to be too introspective about it, but I think there is an impact on me in certain ways. But I hope not too much where you just become like a, you know, what's the word? It just becomes just a mannered sort of thing where you're just doing what someone else does. I didn't really want that. I'll read just a few poems of my own here, and it begins, this book is called Home Test, and it's kind of playing or looking into or exploring or saying perhaps the notion of home. And I think as a person living in a foreign country, you're kind of forced to deal with that. Or if you're raising children in another country other than the one you were born in, you're forced to deal with that. So the idea of home has always interested me. And I use just a epigraph from Basho, which Sid translated. And Sid's translation is this. It's the first sentence of the Oku no Hosomichi, which I think many people are familiar with. Moon and sun are passing figures of countless generations, and years coming or going, wanderers too, drifting life away on a boat or meeting age leading a horse by the mouth. Each day is a journey, and the journey itself home. And that's always kind of stayed with me, the idea of journeying, that this is the journey, this is home. And Maggie mentioned that, how she felt about Kyoto there. And yeah, this has always kind of stayed to me sometimes, this epigraph. Then we have George Steiner from his book Real Presences. He's a kind of a scholar, cultural literary scholar. And he says that it is the capacity of the arts to make us, if not at home, at least answerably peregrine. At least alertly, answerably peregrine in the unhousedness of our human condition. So I might read that again. It is the capacity of the arts to make us, if not at home, at least alertly, answerably peregrine in the unhousedness of our human condition. And so I'd like to read a few of these. Which again, dealing with the notion of home. I'll read the first one called Ferris Wheel, and yes, I think a lot of us leave people when we're young. The first people you maybe leave someone, leave them behind, move, and you have to say goodbye to people. It's probably one of the first experiences of probably becoming unhoused, if you will, or aware of the condition that we all will face. Okay. Oh, Belinda. This woman's name is Belinda. She's, just a young kid. This is like a junior high school girl. Just to give you some reference. Oh, Belinda. I like that Ferris wheel thing there. Because it's round, you see. Okay. Oh, Belinda. We were just kids saying goodbye, trying to imagine what it would be like never to see each other again. And we felt that deeply, and we sought a way to say goodbye. So went to the carnival, enjoyed rides, and later walked into a prairie, where we could exhaust every last word and fall into each other's arms, for what we were learning was all that could be said. Finally, kisses and more kisses, then rolling over the ground until the carnival was nothing but a few lights flickering on and off like the last embers of a fire we might have called childhood. For when we stood and walked away from that field that night, our lives were opening out, past the flight's flooding, broken over puddles, past the quieting of the rain, into the dark and glistening streets leading us home. Okay. Ikebana, maybe just a little one for the Ikebana here. It always surprised me the way Japanese will put like buds, these lotus buds or something in the Ikebana. I mean, just a bud. It's all closed up. There's no flower. It's just a bud. It kind of intrigued me because in art you often look for tension. And that seemed ready. So Ikebana, a fistful of lotus buds soaking in a vase, ready to open any moment now. And I'm going to do that one again. That's for sure. A fistful of lotus buds soaking in a vase, ready to open any moment now. And this is called Skylight. Because she prays one way and her husband prays a different way, a different faith, it follows the doctor on CNN is telling the world their children will be confused. When I turn the television off, it's early morning in Japan. I'm walking through the dark, bumping first into the table and then the chair before reaching the door and sliding it open, to find my family on the floor, asleep beneath futons that lift around their breathing and stretch away under the moon like waves. We are of different faiths and races. Our nationalities are different too, and yes, I could remain awake for hours to toss and turn around the news of what awaits our children. But thankfully I have these stars and children sleeping soundly, their faces turned toward the light that travels through the universe to be with us so perfectly confused. Yeah. Another kind of children poem here called Drifting. I had a fiction teacher once who said it's more important for writers sometimes to be in a room alone and be able to drift and not write anything. It seemed like it was really good advice, actually, that you don't always have to be writing. To wake with a kind of grace and not feel harried, how easy to be swept off into the current of life's demands. I'd rather be more able to drift into seasons, to attend projects and chores with eyes ready for the least disturbance any blade of grass turning in the wind can make. To be a hunter who realizes the fullness an instant offers, to accept here and now the unexpected gift of learning how it is to let disturbance enter you and turn you out towards its life. Then might I be more able to be the man I want to be, the father, lifting children free from fear of disturbing his day or breaking his holy train of concentration. Here I am. I'm pounding down the stairs. I'm running through the kitchen to see what's happening this time. And there they are, the children, too scared to say a word of how the vase was broken, only their tears and open arms to guide me past this shattering into the station of this attentiveness. And I'm going to finish up with this poem called First Day, and taking my daughter to a school in Shiga many years ago already. Bigger than most, she's sitting pretty, looking alert, her hair done up in a ponytail. She's wearing her uniform and stretching the skirt beneath herself the way a lady would. Younger kids, 2 and 3 years old, march past outside the window. Now, from out behind her calm countenance come the welling tears she quickly brushes aside with her fingers. I want to go to her, but no, I must stand away. All I can do is smile from the back of the room, this room I'm beginning to take the measurement of. Call it fatherhood from here on out, but already I have her tears in my eyes too. And it works like that, and she sees this and chokes into a sobbing that seems to rush between us like a river we can neither get across nor meet in the middle of. At least, not until she turns to face the teacher, and I on my side turn to face this dearest song I think I've ever heard, lifting into my heart, light and airy as the blossoms streaming from the trees in the yard and pouring into the afternoon heat, their small sweetness. Thank you.